Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness. Come journey with us exploring the meaningfulness of astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sue Minahan. This is Talk Cosmos. Today, we've just begun June 2026. It's the 7th. And we're going to talk about Chiron that will be in the middle of the month entering Taurus. It's a time of a 7-year, well, I'm telling the story before it begins, but we do have a guest today, and it is a long cycle. And it changes that new identity that we've really been working on for years, since 2018. And now it's finding worth with it, that there is abundance. And we have these cycles this month are interloping, I might say, with other cycles. It seems to be a theme in life. It's not just a one-cut cookie. It's like a display of Christmas cookies, right? You get this, you get that. After a while, you're not feeling too well. But in our point, we are going to try to expand beyond it, although we have a lot of slides, but we'll still try to carry the theme so you get some ideas of what's happening. Okay, enough of me. Let's get to the show. We're ready.
In the first week of the month, Talk Cosmos ignites a conversation exploring planet cycle relationships in a cosmos to understand their archetypal consciousness and meaningfulness for individuals and the collective. Blending world events, mythology, and philosophy, these are the astrologers identifying the deeper impact of the planets buzzing in our daily lives.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
And I'm Dr. Laura Tad. I work as a spiritually oriented psychological astrologer with students and clients around the world. As a counselor, writer, and educator, I love helping people recognize their inner strengths, take advantage of auspicious moments, and navigate times of challenge with greater ease. On my own podcast, Mythic Sky Storytime, I discuss astrology, mythology, and actualizing our full potential. Learn more at mythicsky.com.
Plus, a special guest who we will introduce in just a short moment.
And as the ancient Hermetic code reveals,
As below, so above. As above, so below.
Oh, Dr. Tad, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Sue. It's good to be back.
Good. And I'll give a heads up, we'll be missing you next month. Laura's got a big trip going to Ireland and China, and it'd be very exciting to have you back in August. So
we'll see how jet lagged I am.
We're gonna delay it a little bit. That's right, folks. In August, it will be a little bit later in the month to accommodate.
12-hour time difference is a lot to navigate.
Yes, it is. The world and its changes. Well, I'm excited. We have Tracy Quinault with us again from Canada. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, ladies. Nice to see you. It's great to be here.
It is. Tracy was here in 2024. We were debating. It was a year and a half or so, and glad to have back again, because this is really Chiron going into Taurus is a whole nother cycle. It hasn't happened. It happens on the 19th. It's about 2 weeks from now. But
and it's not staying there either, right? It's just dipping in and then it comes out again. I think in August, I believe. So we're just getting a preview right now.
And it always does impact us, though. Yeah, it's so true. Right. I'm not deflecting, but I'm adding to what you're saying, that it's sort of surprising. We think, and then boom, here we are. And then after a while, we get to retreat and shift gears again. Well, Tracy Quinault's from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Her website's Consult the Sky, and she has a podcast with Lillian Bennett, who was on a couple months ago. And that is Sky Notes Podcast. She's a consultant, an astrologer, a teacher, a speaker, and an author. 7 years she's been writing for Llewellyn, which is a big astrological publisher, and just created and published a book, Charting Love with Astrology. And we'll show pictures of that at the halftime. I sound like a football team. And she's an Acutonic Practitioner, which is most appropriate considering Taurus. It is the body, it's earth, it's our senses. Laura also has some tools in that and is familiar, and me, I just play my violin and use a bong. But we'll talk about that later. Her book is Beginning Friendly Guide, and she has a background in sociology and psychology, takes a grounded, practical, I love this approach to astrology, less fate, more self-awareness. That is almost a t-shirt. I really like it. And it has humor, enough to make the hard truths land softly. That's a gift. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks.
Here we are, a little bit of AI. I pushed in a few little code words because it really is alchemizing scarcity into abundance. Because I was reflecting back, we're still working on, in a sense, this identity that we're embracing instead of rejecting parts of ourselves, bringing them into focus and saying, yes, I'm going to experience these. But then it comes in, the next step is, how's my self-worth, my sense of value? And do I think in abundance, or am I still thinking there's not enough? So it's a big, we'll see how that goes. But hopefully we're on the path, and it's like, okay, I've got to deal with this. But it's also the earth, it's food, it's so many more things. Yes.
Yeah. And I find that timing is interesting because we saw these themes when the nodes went through Taurus and Scorpio, and there was a lot of stuff that got dug up, and then Uranus and Taurus at the same time, some of that crossover. So it almost feels like Chiron moving into Taurus is the healing from all the things that got dredged up back then, and all around resources and feeling, the shortages of things.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see what kind of healing Chiron brings.
It will indeed. I'm also thinking, yes, with different tools that we have now, because Taurus sort of manifests the tools, whether it's putting the word down to writing, even though it's not Gemini, but it's still form. And then now we have AI, so it's like for good or bad. And then it has a lot to do with water, which is one of the arguments. Oy vey. Okay, thank you for that insight too. Well, it is an earth. It is a sign of the bull. It is stable and fixed. There's a certain fixicity about it, meaning it's dealing with what has been said. I don't think that it means, I was thinking about it in Chiron, there's always change because it's healing. So it isn't that it wants to stay fixed, but it's dealing with something that is fixed, like Earth is a body. Our body is what incarnates our spirit, So.
Well, and what kind of themes would you guys say after Chiron and Aries would Chiron and Taurus be working on?
Well, self-worth is one. And self-reliance, resiliency. I think that's a big one. Self-reliance and resiliency. And the scarcity, abundance. Laura, you had something?
Well, and I think there's a measuredness in Taurus that you don't have in Aries. Aries is that rushing energy of like heal yesterday, where Taurus is like, okay, maybe we're healing deeper so that there's that foundational wellness as opposed to surface level wellness.
Yeah.
It could be more Aries. That it because it's moving ahead, and it's always trying to get on to the next thing. What's the next gimmick around wellness, as opposed to really dropping into that Taurian earthy energy of foundational health. That might be more of the theme that we see in the next couple of years coming in.
And I'm thinking of that patience. You know, Taurus has a certain patience. It understands that growth is involved. It takes time. But I had just a little chat with Laura earlier, and since you also brought up the nodes with the polarity of Scorpio goes, no, now. I'm finished with waiting. Now, thank you. So there is this tension, I think, that's interesting, especially if it's toxic. You know, it's not working. It's dysfunctional.
Well, so then along that lines, it makes me think of more of what we might see is environmental issues around health. I think will be more of a theme. How healthy is your physical environment in terms of mold, in terms of EMF, in terms of, right, all these things that are environmental health things may come more online and paying more attention to how our physical environment is or is not supporting well-being.
That reminds me of feng shui, which always has existed, but perhaps it'll have another layer to it. Or tapping. It's really with Nick Ortner and his sister.
In terms of tapping,
that tapping's like, you know, doing on your wrist first. I mean, doing the karate chop, and then going on your eye and around, which really is an amazing factor. Anyway, I'm glad you asked that, Tracy. Let's see what else we have. Did you have a thought that you wanted to add? No.
Just to follow up what Laura had said, that, you know, some of the themes that came up with Chiron and Aries was, you know, individuality and individual rights. What's my right? And whether that imposes on somebody else's or not. We've been debating that now for quite a while. So that I feel like the repercussions of that get seen and have to be dealt with Chiron and Taurus. So that'll be interesting to see what unfolds for us to realize the damage that's happened and how to heal it.
It does build. Absolutely. It is. And it's subtle. It's like, I remember when Aries started, we had the spring, you know, over in Middle East. What was it? It had a name, the
Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring. Yeah. It just erupted. And then there was the occupation in New York. And then it faded, just like, well, not faded, because it is true that in the cycles that it ingresses a sign, and then it retreats out. That's because of the cycle as we see it from Earth, I guess. But at any rate, the point, or it goes right. Yeah. So the point being that it relaxes, it seems, from that intensity of that focus, and then it comes back again. But this time in Taurus, we don't know. I mean, it could be a big earthquake that happens. I mean, I'm not trying to suggest anything, but when I think about it, I can't be so certain that it won't be something quite dynamic, because it's synergetic. You know, we have, well, we'll see what some of the aspects are. We have Mars and Uranus together, and so, yeah, maybe it will be more Earth. Okay, what am I doing? We're trying to go forward. Okay, there we are. This is the orbit, and it crosses the orbit, doesn't interfere with the planets, but is the bridge between Saturn, the furthest that we see, the known, and Uranus, of the unknown, that disrupts things, a disruptor. So it is that idea that it takes something that is established, perhaps, or that is traditional, and then reveals what needs to be shifted and changed. There's wonderful books about Chiron, Melanie Reinhardt and Barbara Hand-Clow, quite a few. Last week, we went extensively about the Chiron. I'll just give a quick, and Laura, I don't know if you want to add something, but he is referred to as a master healer. He was a tutor to the gods and heroes, Hercules, Achilles,
Asclepius. He was taught Asclepius. Right. So it's this interesting thing of like, he's not the father of medicine, but he's the teacher to the father of medicine.
Yeah, he's the teacher to the teacher sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. The root. Very great. And he was wounded first by rejection. His mom and dad went, nope. His father was Saturn, unlike the other centaurs that had Ixion. That's a whole nother lawless story. But his father was Saturn, but he just ignored him. And his nymph was horrified because he was half horse and half human, representing our nature and our as a human and nature as the world. But he had imitated himself or camouflaged himself as a horse when he mated with the nymph. So it was a natural thing. But he was in harmony with his nature's animal, which is a great, I think, key to remember as we deal with this wound, because he had this initial wound of rejection. And then the other centaurs thought he was kind of a bozo, I guess, because he was so refined and intellectual, and they were rambunctious and just more with their instinctual desires. But he finally was wounded by an incurable wound. He had himself created this poison to help Hercules. And then as it comes around, it hit him accidentally, some say otherwise. But however, the fact was he was wounded, could not heal it except through death. It was a very literal thing. You know, we're talking about melodrama ideas here to drive home a point. But the point, the actual, so it is this tension between the body, like of a horse or Saturn, and the human wisdom of the elevated ideas that we get channeled in through Uranus. But there was a pathway, and that was with Prometheus, who was being punished for having given fire, spirit to humans. Anyway, he traded his life for that, but Zeus was thankful, thought he did a noble thing, threw him up into the constellations in Centaurus, and there he sits, which to me shows that by service in this, it gives another dimension that we can further teach people. He's in the heavens teaching. We in our own way can teach or share or give service in some ways. We don't know how that's going to help people necessarily, but it is important. It was a little longer than I intended. Any thoughts, Laura, or should we move on?
Well, just this idea of that's the origin of this wounded healer, right? That's what Chiron really represents, and whether it's looking at how he's treated because he's looks different and acts different than the other centaurs, or this wound with an arrow, that archetypally it represents this idea of where we are most wounded is where we have the greatest capacity to help and heal other people. And it's almost like this homeopathic exchange that the wound is the cure.
Yes.
And so understanding that archetypally, wherever it falls for you natally, then looking at that, but then culturally and societally, globally, as he ingresses into Taurus, what is this wound that we have globally that is Taurian, that is the wound is the cure?
Yes, and to catch what Tracy has said, we did, and we still are, just in the last couple of weeks, working on our identity. Is it okay to be me? And is it okay? And the inclusivity of others, because Chiron and Aries are so together. It's like, who have we excluded? And what parts of myself have I excluded and want to present? And so therefore with Taurus, you're right, it's going to be healing on another nature of wholeness, yeah. Well, they're looking at this period. The last time was from 1976 to April of 1984, and Laura came out with some historical things, and I did, and we'll try to go through them quickly. But during this period, Chiron was discovered in November 1st, 1977, so it's having its own return. Well, we'll find that out later. But Laura, go ahead and
so just some of the other factors. So there's like full day, a little bit longer, blackout in New York City during this period of time. Speaking to sort of the environmental Taurus's connection with the senses in terms of light, see what we visually see, the environment. Harvey Milk, who was the first openly gay person elected to public office in California, he was both elected and assassinated during this window. Mm-hmm. And so this idea of that wound around values, that wound around what's that
identity,
but what is of value to us, and changing values, and how that, particularly his assassination, started shifting some laws, particularly in California, around LGBTQ rights in the 70s and 80s. We get the term glass ceiling is first coined, and Taurus as an archetype is related to resources. So wounds around that idea of glass, women can only get so far economically in a given field. Speaking to the wound of that by literally naming it happened during this period. The Susan B. Anthony dollar. So she's the first woman ever on a coin in the U.S.
Again, value, giving value.
Representing resources financially.
If I can say with Harvey Milk, it really answers what Tracy was saying so beautifully. I'm glad you followed through with it, because not only did he have the identity to say, I can be me, I am gay, and that's totally okay, and I'm going to therefore go into leadership and announce it, because up until that point, many gay people, it's always in history, but people hadn't verbally expressed it. And then it was this idea of having worth. The California, like you say, because of his unfortunate, horrible assassination, gave worth to all qualities of some shift of sexual identity. Yeah. So that was, thank you.
So with Iran, looking at what's going on currently, this will be the Chiron return of the Islamic regime. That all happened during this period where the Shah fled and the current Islamic regime began. So they are having a Chiron return. So there's no accident that this is the time that things are where they are potentially. My friends that are Iranian and fled Iran, this is what's been going on. That's the time they've had the most hope that they might be able to go home. Wow. In the last 50 years.
Wow.
That's strong.
Yeah. So the Senate in the U.S. Actually acknowledged the fact that Agent Orange was super toxic, this chemical that was used during the Vietnam War as a defoliant, literally, like, again, the environment.
For people and the humans that suffered it. It was just because it's unending. It is Parkinson's disease. And then the land.
And a cancer. There's an Agent Orange disease specifically that came out of this defoliant. And that so
there's veterans that
Taurus, this poison that was poisoning the earth and how it poisoned people as well.
There is a veteran who experienced Vietnam and takes other veterans back every year. And part of that tour requires every person, each man and woman, if it's with a husband or wife, doesn't matter, $1,000. And then he puts it towards helping. He has a whole collection of people that are helping get mines out and do all the health to purify the land there. I need to add that.
So maybe there'll be something like there. It'll be interesting to see what might happen in Vietnam around continued reparations, potentially around that. Since we're out of Seattle, or the show's out of Seattle, none of us are there, but the show's out of Seattle, out of Washington, it was when Mount St. Helens erupted.
I remember that clearly. I didn't know the moment, but it was. Yep.
And the CDC first documents what later came to be known as AIDS. So, all during this time period. And that, to me, part of that speaks to the polarity of Scorpio, that during this particular cycle of Uranus, of Chiron and Taurus, Uranus was in Scorpio. So they were in opposition through much of this cycle, which we don't have this time. They're semi-sextile this time around. So very different energy, but it spoke to a lot to that opposition.
I chose, and we'll run through this very quick and then take a little break, the actual periods, because it happened to be between, as we know, it entered and then it retreated again. And I'll just mention a couple. There was a huge earthquake at the very beginning in 76, mid 76 in the summer. And it was calculated about 2,500,000 people died, but actually the record suggests it was 300 or even over 600,000 people. It was just enormous. This was in China, the Tangshan earthquake. Also during the period, the chunk of it, 77 to 83, it was all during the Cold War, which is hard to remember, but it really was such a reality. It was like it was almost like that's just how things have to be, is a Cold War with Russia, which is like a sibling rivalry almost between the two powers. But the big factor was that politically people were bouncing like a baseball game or a basketball game, where we went from Ford, who came after Nixon, of course, he was outed, but then we went to Carter for a term, and then we flipped over to back to Ronald Reagan. So it was most unusual. Usually we have a two-term presidential time. We didn't with Trump as it worked lately, so in the consciousness of people. But for many years, it's always two terms. But there, the values were really fluctuating between the 70s and 80s. It was pivotal. And then there were boycotts because of, like what Laura's mentioned, with all that. It was the anti-nuclear protests, which was in addition to the earlier scenario and about, Agent Orange. But here, it was global, and people would boycott and cancel goodwill visits, which is kind of happening now with a few ideas. Well, we will come back and look at this chart. This is 1977, November 1st, 10 a.m. in Pasadena. There's an observatory there. But maybe we'll just leave this here and come back later to something else. But Mars, interestingly, the activator, is saying, oh, isn't that incredible? That here I am, and meanwhile, folks, start working on your wounds, whatever they are. Start using them, looking at them, exploring them. And then there's a point of Thales with Jupiter that says, what's your belief system about this? Is this really real? Like, maybe we should review that and change something, because the point of Thales has an opposition, and it is the mediator that goes a connector to it and a trine to it. And it's also with Hygeia, which is from Eclipsius, mythology-wise, the daughter of health, purity, and toxicity. So what's not working? What are you eating that's ruining your body? Or what are you putting into the water that's ruining the reefs in the world, Well, we'll jump away if that's okay. Unless somebody, as a burning question, I am with Tracy Quinault, Tracy Quinlan, and Dr. Laura Tad. Return with us, grab your water, whatever it is, and we'll see you, or coffee. Thanks.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the period of Gemini. By leaving a cycle based on physical form, integrated through spirit, the energy of Gemini connects spirit with matter, focused on communicating and defining the external. Gemini is a mutable air sign signifying flexibility. Gemini dually focuses upon teaching and learning in order to synthesize the world one lives within.
Talk Cosmos ignites insightful conversations to awaken heart and soul consciousness with hour-long programs every Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific on KKNW. Also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click their like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. You can listen to earlier podcasts since 2018, either on most podcast carriers or under the video tab on Talk Cosmos YouTube. To join our expedition and find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com and launch your week into the cosmic wonder.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, June 14th, it's our energy balancing show, and best practitioner and energy codes gal, Linda Rasmussen, will join us. We'll take your phone calls, and Linda will help you or your animal friends with emotional, behavioral, or physical issues. I hope you can join us and plan to call in for your free remote treatments. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Alternative Talk 1150. Talk radio for the body, mind, and soul.
Oh, the Sabian symbol, 1 degree Taurus. Boy, isn't that amazing? Because it's above 0 degrees. A clear mountain stream. Well, it's resourcefulness. I think that is the key word. And from what I read, it really says be true to yourself. Kind of follows up with the Aryan. Be yourself and express it. And resilience, which is very Taurian. Any quick ideas here?
It really struck me in the discovery chart that Uranus is conjunct the sun. And then with Chiron on the other side, it's shining a spotlight on that not fitting. So it emphasizes that theme of Chiron. I hadn't noticed it before, or not retained it anyways.
Yeah, I saw you're looking, and I also noticed it myself briefly, but I'm going, oh, isn't that absolutely true? It's so much as spoken in the moment that later we go back on. Yeah, the mountains, boy, that does look so northwesty or in high Europe or someplace.
Well, and I think I just associate mountain stream so much with like a cleansing energy. It's right. It's like this clean water. It's not polluted. It just has this purity of connecting with the earth, of like, it's not, humans haven't tainted it yet, sort of energy. And so the possibility of what that Chiron ingress into Taurus can be, of that pure relationship with nature, that is not, and how healing that can be. And the healing aspect of water, that water is so cathartic. Water is so cleansing that it can wash anything away.
Yes. It is a 7 to 8 year cycle. Aries was the longest, 8 to 9. And that's because it retrogrades and comes back in both ends. And it is this collective focus of abundance versus scarcity, wounds of self-worth and value in all different ways. So it will be on the 19th of this month in June till September 18th. And then it will retreat back to Aries until next September 18th. Until finally it leaves in 2033, but actually 2034. So you can look back at this later. And it's a very elliptical orbit that Chiron has, as we saw in that chart, meaning that it's short during Libra and then long. And I'm going to keep going because we've got material to cover through our wonderful conversations. It's a sensory experience. We're healing through the senses, through earth, through tangibility. And there's all different ways. And these are the different ones. And with sound, I know Tracy is
Acutonics. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a whole series of the Chiron forks. We've got the high, the medium, and the low forks for Chiron. And a lot of that is dealing, for me, I always turn to Chiron for those when people don't feel like they fit, or there's that wound of never feeling like they fit in, or depending on, for me, Chiron is conjunct my moon, so we can all ascertain what that looks like. So lots of healing around those wounds. So yeah, it's got some really powerful energetic healing value when you're working with the forks, for sure. And in Taurus, one of the things I wanted to say when we're looking at it compared to Aries is, one of the Taurus things I love is the tenacity. And often when we get a planet that goes through Taurus, the things that happen stick for good or not, they tend to hang on for longer. So even when we looked at those stories, Harvey Milk, all of those have longevity to them. They always come back up in conversation. So Taurus, whatever is going through Taurus, it tends to have that sticking value to it.
Good point. I like that so much. Yeah. And along with these ideas, we won't go through all these. You can see them. There's taste, touch, sight, smell, sound, everything from massage, acupuncture that we know, light therapies. But with food, weight loss is such a big deal. And I know, Laura, you had mentioned, just briefly speaking here, that there were some problems with some people that couldn't digest. So we will see if there's how this is really working for people, because there's so much good in letting your body drop weight that's making it harder for it to function. So there's always going to be a plus and a minus, and science needs to work a little further on how to get things appropriately put together. Right?
Yeah, well, that idea of the fast, quick thing versus which is the Aries. Yeah. Oh, quick, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in a month. That's actually seriously unhealthy, right? So the thing, slow and steady wins the race, is Taurus.
Yeah.
And so that there being a more methodical approach to wellness, to food, to the whole, slow food movement that's sort of been in the zeitgeist, I think, with Uranus ingressed into Taurus, but that continuing to see not just as a fad but as, here's the health reasons for it. Here's the physical, why it is better for your body.
Yeah. I'm quick to really support people who have real health issues, because they've scientifically realized that the body gets accustomed to fat and sugars, and it's really, for them to lose weight is practically impossible. It's not just a matter of will. So giving tools has a real purpose. And I want to make sure that people don't feel like we're overlooking at that, because it's part of the worth. I think it's part of the worth to realize that weight isn't decreed by this manufactured idea of what marketing has given, but there is a health factor. And so if just, I'm thinking a lot like the pill back in the 70s, late 60s and 70s, when it came out, it was much stronger, and it was more, or microwaves that were much stronger, but then eventually, or cell phones that were huge, and then science made smaller. So hopefully science will learn to make it possible for some people to have other tools so that it can be healthy and all that. Tracy Quinault, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, consulttthesky.com, Sky Notes Podcast. Dr. Laura Tad in Georgia with mythicsky.com, and she has a podcast storytelling that she gives, and a YouTube, and myself, Talk Cosmos. And Tracy has a book that she just published, Charting Love with Astrology, and it involves all the relationships, and you can find that on Llewellyn, Indigo Chapters, Barnes and Noble, and Amazon. And just go to her site. There's material that tells you right about it.
Absolutely.
Anything else that you want to share that's okay? Of course, you have your podcast. How often does your podcast show?
So we do Sky Notes weekly. We do a weekly up.
She'll be back. Laura, let's go to you. You have Mythic Sky Storytime podcast and your Mythic Sky Astrology and Conversations now that has moved to being your monthly event. So,
and I will be skipping July because I'll be in Ireland, and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard is midnight in Ireland. So I won't be doing July.
Okay.
But I will cover most of July this Wednesday, because July is very filled with astrological events.
It is. Well, we have Tracy back, just like
just poof. There's a problem.
Exactly.
See you later.
It's good. And Laura has a moon journal, lunar cycles and self-reflection. You can start with any new moon. There are plenty of journaling prompts and suggestions. It's quite fabulous. So look at her book and just go to Mythic Sky. All the information will be there. You can definitely email Laura and she will gladly tell you any facts that you need to know. It's very comprehensive and packed with good things. And my YouTube is weekly, as you know. And we did do Mars with Chiron with Tara last month, which is still in that final throes until we will begin to work with this Taurus. I did one myself, time travel, which was some about these big cycles, and brought it home. And then Uranus has really been in the picture, just as we've been both talking about in different ways. It conjuncts Sedna at 0 degrees, which is very impactful. That's through vibrational astrology, and squaring the nodes as we speak. And next week will be about the new set of new and full moons. Let's look at the ingress on the 19th. It'll be in the evening at 5 p.m., 5:17 and 34 seconds. And that's East Coast time, which both Canada and the United States have for their capitals. It reflects everybody. Porphyry, house system, and I do true nodes. So there's this big T-square. Once again, it is healing our belief systems of what we thought was nurturing us in Cancer and what we need to feel safe with. Because sometimes I have my favorite foods, thank you. I thought I'd given some up, but no, they come back. Did you miss me? Anyway, and then with Pluto, that just is so persistent. Pluto is obsessive. It wants to move forward and get rid of what is in the way to get down to what is valuable, that's giving you real resourceful power, empowerment. Laura? Looking, are either of you looking at the moon? The moon is pretty powerful, isn't it? It is emotionally, I think we're ready to, it's next to what we need to release. It wants to discern something because it's both in earth signs, it's ready to look at, I think, some of these.
Well, and it's in Virgo, so it's an analyzing, right? Like we've got a lot of Virgo energy on the show right now. I know my chart between Tracy and I, we've got some prominent Virgo energy, and so this okay, so we're healing, but wanting to. There's that refinement energy of Virgo that's wanting to perhaps feel sure about how we go forward with the healing.
Some sense of perfection, although it is a balance to let go of that perfection. I like this too. It's the moon that wants to process. And Virgo, if it's discerning, needs to take all that data, particularly with Uranus, they're just collecting everything in Gemini, besides and saying, wait a minute, is this of value? And Pluto's saying, all these energies are, yes, it's a.
Well, and it's the point of Chiron's the point of Thales to the nodes, right? So that's part of this as well, of part of how we find that balance, that harmony of that nodal axis is through healing, that spirit and terrestrial polarity of Pisces Virgo through this wounded healer archetype and finding healing of both rather than the ping-ponging back and forth. Oh, it's spiritual or it's earthy. That alchemizing those energies together, and that body keeps the score idea, right? Like, how do we, I think, is part of that, that healing process that could speak to these nodal, that aspect.
And there's something really poetic having Chiron and Taurus at the beginning of its story, trine node, north or south node in Virgo, ending its story.
Oh,
And there's some kind, and they're trying each other, right? So there's this possibility for release. And especially with, if you think about Chiron leaving Aries, it's like we get this moment of, okay, let's let go of some of that Aries stuff that we're moving out of. And then we get to revisit it because Chiron will come back. But I like what Howard Sasporta says in the Gods, Changing Gods, or that book about the outer planets. He says that the transits happen so slowly because we can only process them that slowly. Otherwise, if the change happened all at once, it would be too much for us mere humans to handle. So this is one of those moments, I think, when you see Chiron trine the South Node, that we're going to release what we can now, but you'll get other opportunities to do that as the transition continues.
Mm-hmm. And it's tricky because a few weeks later, okay, it happens on the 19th. And then on the 30th, Jupiter goes into Leo. And on the 1st of July, Jupiter squares Chiron. So, and as Laura, you've said, Chiron during this whole period only stays at 0 degrees Taurus, and then it goes immediately back to Aries. But it seems, and in that last one, I just said Chiron T square. I didn't put point of Thales. So for those people, it had a bullet point. Anyway, it's a little technical error.
I mean, it's tighter on the 1st of July than it is on the ingress, but it.
Yeah, but so it's moving, it's applying. Yeah. But I had shown this T square. The point of Thales, that it's showing so clearly that you're both talking about. And what's interesting is I didn't really show how, in addition to that, to the nodes, we have Mars and Uranus intention, squaring, activating it. That's what squares are, as we know. They activate. They're not good or bad, but it shows it wants to drive forward with something. So, and Mars and Uranus together, because it does take time, but Uranus and Mars, no, it's right now. So we're going to be pushed to see things immediately. It may take time to synthesize that and integrate it. But in a sense, maybe all these things are going to be revealed pretty quickly because, as we've said, the nodes are leaving. We have a month left. At the end, on the 26th of July, they go into the next set for 18 months, and that'll be North Node Aquarius and South Node Leo. So things are...
Yeah, I mean, it may be that blend in terms of the slowness, particularly with Taurus, right? Like Taurus is slow to commit because when it does, it's done. It's not moving. So
that's true.
That blend of this Uranian Mars energy, it may be sort of like Rick Levine talks about how like first day of summer, not the hottest day of the year, right? So the event may be fast that triggers the healing, the call for healing, but the healing itself may be a long process, right? I think that's sort of that blend of this quick and slow is quick, immediate event that leads to long, and with that Virgo energy, like
enduring.
Yeah. But also with Sedna right there. Sedna is the slowest one on the whole board, and it's part of the conjunction. So that just doubles down on what you're saying. You know, it's there to sort of hold the energy for a very long time.
You're right. Yes, indeed. Sedna, folks. And remember, folks, we did talk about Sedna a couple weeks ago with Linda and Rob, and it is a dwarf planet. It's way out. But what she was saying is that looking at this was through historical references, and that with the cycle of the conjunction, then the opposition. The conjunction last time wasn't in Gemini, but it was 1931, and she give or took 5 years. And then the opposition was 1975. And again, Uranus would be disrupting something, and all this would be revealed in its murky, everything happening. And then in 75, things settled as far as a new resolution. For instance, Hitler came into power, and then in 75, Europe created the EA. We won't fight among ourselves anymore. That's it. And the second one was monetary, where we left the gold standard in 31, and then in 75, it became a floating. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Any rate, so, wow. Oh, these are aspects occurring, and it's in 2 years from now, in 2028. Chiron will first, and its only time, conjunct Saturn, or have any aspect really with Saturn, but it will conjunct Saturn, which is most amazing because that's on the inner side, remember, with the orbit. So it, and it's in early degrees. And then that same, and Laura found this out, it won't happen again until
2111. So Saturn and Chiron are conjunct in 2 years, and they will not be conjunct again till 2111 in Pisces.
Yeah, so it's a message here, folks. And that will
just the way they're circling each other. They miss each other. Two Chiron cycles.
But it starts in the beginning of the zodiac, and then we just are going through with all these other experiences, and then it closes and says, okay, now what was that womb all about? What are your seeds that you're holding?
And so you could think about, like, in terms of myth, if Saturn's his father, right, there's this relationship.
Oh, yeah.
With Saturn and Chiron. And so they're connecting in 2 years. And then, not again for any of our lifetimes.
These cycles are amazing. Well, following that will be Pluto. And they have
like literally the next day.
A 5
or next month, a month later to the.
And it alternates. Pluto will be retrograde, then Chiron will be retrograde, Pluto retrograde, Chiron retrograde. And at the very end, in 2030, they're both direct. So you can check that. That'll be something. And Chiron is going to want to change things. And, Aquarius is networking. It's the public. It could be elitist. I mean, by public, I mean it's a collective, but it can be elitist. And so we have to be careful that we're not isolating, or our values don't just look at the elite and not inclusive. So we'll see what happens. Well, I guess we have a couple of minutes here to just reflect if anything comes to mind. And I have a few ideas here, because food could be, there's this whole idea, are we going to have enough food? And are we building on top of agriculture areas? And what about the water? Are we taking too much water with the data centers? Are we going to be able to share it?
We're also at a crisis point in the health industry because it's become so monetized. And there's such a push to monetize. That to me is a very Chiron and Taurus combo, so we'll see. That'll come to a head in some way, I feel, during Chiron and Taurus. And switching to, you think, more natural ways of healing with that Taurus. Herbs and things that grow out of the ground will become more researched, maybe. That's kind of what I hope for.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we get sort of another wave of this, like food as medicine too, that can come in.
Yes.
Of even, this was years ago, my godmother's doctoral thesis was on treating psychological disorders with food, because if it's truly a chemical imbalance, you should be able to introduce those chemicals through food and not through synthetic psychotropics. And so things like spinach help depression, right? It's the same chemicals that are found in a lot of antidepressants are found in dark leafy greens. So ways of connecting with the natural world, to your point, Tracy, with the natural world as medicine.
Or sugar. Back then, there was this huge outbreak against sugar. And of course, as we know, anything, even fake sugar, aspartame or whatever, spikes your insulin, and insulin does a lot of things. And of course, there was a big pushback because cereals and everything. But it is so true. Anybody can realize that, booty. So we are shifting wound wisdom just because it has a scab doesn't mean that it's something to hate. We need to love all of ourselves and give worth. And abundance is an amazing concept. We see it all the time. You know, there's lots of grasses on the earth. Of course, if you're in a desert, there's lots of sand and sunshine. So I guess.
Well, and it can be shifting, right? There's this idea that switching the concept away from excess to abundance. Abundance is this idea of having what you need as opposed to having excess. Abundance isn't excess. Excess is different. Abundance is living fully.
Right.
Right. But that doesn't mean that there's, unnecessary resources.
Beautiful. And I love this idea. It takes time, but once it's committed, it's slow and enduring. So there's a lot of promise with this new experience that we will all be sharing, and we can be deliberating on more of how it shows up and loving this earth that we are on. You know, astronauts, when they come back, their focus had been away and now it's on Earth. So here we are, and we have all these sea creatures, the mammals, the beautiful life. Well, thank you, Tracy Quinault and Dr. Laura Tad. It's really a treat.
It's great to see you both. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining this vibrant and insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her guests awaken consciousness by connecting heart and soul consciousness patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.